I want to jump in straight and to continue talking about the Mac, which says when it comes to the con, everyone is a potential victim, right? When it comes to the con game, and that appears in every area of life. Every one of us a potential victim. If you think you're not a potential victim, then you are. Sure are, and you're probably one of the most sure, right? To think otherwise is to be the next victim when you think you're not. Just like the scriptures would say, let him that thinketh is standard, take heed. Others, he that thinketh is standard, let him take heed lest he falls. When you think you're not a victim, you're naked. You are naked, you're exposed, right? The way to avoid a scam is to know that you could be a potential victim and then cover your bases, right? So it's Mark Twain will say it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have not been fooled, right? When you don't have your guard in place, when you don't understand your exposure to being a victim, to being scammed, you don't know when you're scammed, and you're just trying to protect yourself when you've been scammed already. Instead of you drawing yourself out, you might just be digging yourself further into the hole that you're falling into. And the law of holes says that when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, stop digging. If you think you have been fooled, admit it and start finding your way out. Justifying yourself that you're not being fooled is only digging yourself further into being fooled, right? There's no shame in mixing it. The shame is in not doing something about what the wrong you have done, or the hole you're falling into. You're human, so you can fall into a hole, you can be deceived, you can be fooled. That's not the sin. It's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, because I didn't do something about the first fooling, right? So it's important to admit when you have missed it, so you can do something about it. Because no matter where you fall into, there are deeper depths that you can fall into. That reminds me when I was in depression, I felt everything was bad. I felt, oh, I've had the worst end of life. Not true. Not true. I thought I had the worst end of life, but I found deeper bottoms, because I was crying over this end of life instead of doing something about it. Things got worse, 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 worse. No matter where you are, it can get worse. So wake up, wake up. You are not yet at the bottom of life. You can come. You need to start doing something about coming out from the bottom you're falling into. Otherwise, you find deeper bottoms like I did. Right. So everyone likes to think of themselves as wise and having a good and justifiable reason for what they are doing. That's the thing about us. Whatever it is that we're doing, we seem to have a good reason for it. No matter what it is. So we need to be careful in our own confidence, because sometimes we're confidently wrong, right? Yes, you find the armed robber can justify is the reason why he's stealing. That won't change the reason of him or her going to prison. A prostitute can justify the reason why she prostitutes. Those that dip their hands into the government purse can justify it. Doesn't make it right, right? They truth and justice is not it's not private. It's something that's judged by all, right? So because it looks nice doesn't mean that it's nice. So sometimes you need to question your assumptions, right? uh Even the thief seems to have a good reason for stealing, was said that, and the grifter seems to have a good reason for conning people, you know so we need to be aware of that, and those are things that will help us when we're aware of it, so that we don't get conned, right? Uh, 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 so obviously, this will go more for the grifter, right? In each of us, we have the lower self and the higher self. Billy Graham will call it the two wolves on the inside of us. We have a part of us that tends towards compromise. We have a part of us that tends towards being a honest person, and the one we feed is the one we become, right? None of us is casting concrete to be one or the other. We have both in us. If you feed your flesh, you will exhibit your flesh. If you feed your spirit, you will exhibit your spirit. If you feed your lower nature, you will exhibit your lower nature. If you feed your higher nature, that's what you will exhibit. So who we turn out to be every day is what we're feeding ourselves, what we're focusing on. Whatever you focus on, you're going to exhibit. Whatever you feed is what you're going to exhibit in life. So if you depending on what you focus your mind on, determines how much of a potential victim or not you could be, to a swindler. And one of those things that probably makes us more open to being swindled is the act of wishing. To wish for something really is not a high proposition, it's a lower proposition, because wishes are not horses, right? I know we say that rhyme, those years back, nursery rhyme, wish if wishes are horses, but wishes are not horses. Your wish, and those are some of the things that make us potential victims also, all the fairy tale stories. Oh, fairy godmother. They are no fairy godmother. They are all stories. They don't come, they're not sure, right? Believing those is the reason why people get swindled, because you think your fairy godmother has come in the like of this grifter, this swindler, and suddenly you're going to get a suddenly blessing. Right? This is what makes people run after from one temple of demon to another. They run from one prayer house to the other, one miracle house to the other, because they're looking for the suddenly. They're looking for something for nothing. They have not invested into their life, and they're expecting that somehow things will just happen. They will just have goodwill come their life that they have not invested for. The way life works, it's sowing and reaping. If you want something, it's not to wish for it, it's to ask, what can I do to get this? Right? If I want something in my life, the question is not wishing for a fairy godmother. The question is not wishing for a Roy. The question is not wishing for sudden miracles. The question is, what can I do to get what I want?